Yeah, did you watch the episode when Tulsi Gabbard got on to defend herself and Joy Behar starts panicking and going over her notes while Tulsi is refuting everything that she said?
Yeah, I mean, Joy Behar, like, again, these people have dementia. These are people who, like, should not be allowed out of the house. They have a national platform. I mean, it is crazy. They have no idea. These people have never read, like, a book.
I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he...
Sonny Hostin just crash-landed headfirst into a $450 million fraud fiasco, co-starring none other than her own husband, before she even had a chance to rehearse her signature shocked gasp for the cameras. Joe Rogan and Bill Maher are tag-teaming her reputation from completely different corners of the media arena. One hit her with icy, unforgiving facts, the other roasted her with flaming sarcasm. Spoiler alert, neither brought tissues. Sonny, the self-anointed queen of courtroom hot takes and daytime moral grandstanding, just got a brutal reminder. Life doesn't hand out fraud immunity badges. While she was perched in her designer chair, lecturing America on ethics like a part-time philosopher, her husband was allegedly out here playing Fraud Simulator 3000, except this wasn't a game. And no, we're not talking Monopoly money either. This is a jaw-dropping, very real $450 million, not a typo, not an exaggeration. That's the kind of financial scandal you'd expect on Wall Street, not wrapped in a reality TV-style breakdown. Now Sonny's sweating harder than someone being audited and dumped at the exact same time, and the whole country is watching every second of the fallout.
But life is random. The only word to describe it when a big game hunter gets trampled by an elephant and then eaten by lions is hilarious.
Turns out, while Sonny was busy dishing out justice with a side of sass, her husband might have been out here flipping invoices like pancakes and stashing money like a magician hides playing cards. Offshore accounts? Check. Shady medical billing? Check. A suspicious chronic allergy to IRS paperwork? Triple check. All this while Sonny's been parading around as the poster child for law, order, and virtue, flashing that signature smug smirk on daytime TV. But behind the curtain, her own household might have been running a masterclass on how to make cash vanish in 10 steps or less. Now the spotlight's flipped, and she's not holding the mic. She's in the hot seat. No teleprompter, no script. Just vibes, subpoenas, and a moral high ground that's evaporating faster than her credibility.
That we all love from one of my favorite shows on The View, and it's always, Tom, what'd you always say? It's always the people that always do the pointing, and it always comes back to them, all right? So when you said, this is the largest RICO case ever filed in the state of New York, you guys wrap that around your brain. That's bigger than the mafia case. Like the mafia one was number one, this one takes it over. So he was scamming.
Joe Rogan isn't exactly famous for sipping tea quietly or dropping hints in hushed tones. He's the guy who'll throw a flat earther and a brain surgeon into the same room just to watch the chaos unfold. So when the $450 million scandal orbiting Sonny Hostin hit his radar, he didn't just raise an eyebrow, he grabbed a flamethrower and stormed into the credibility circus with gasoline in both hands. Rogan didn't tiptoe around it, he leveled it. Treated the whole fiasco like a fresh UFC bout. No gloves, no warm-up, just a straight-up first-round knockout. And the irony? Thick enough to deflect bullets. A legal expert, yes, legal, whose own household might have authored the modern playbook on elite white-collar crime? You couldn't script that without a Netflix exec tossing it out for being too unrealistic. But Joe didn't stop at the scandal. He locked in on the real jaw-dropper, the media blackout. The same daytime shows that breathlessly dissect celebrity, divorces, wardrobe fails, and out-of-context tweets like they're breaking global news, suddenly dead silent. Not a whisper when Sonny's husband hit legal turbulence. Turns out the loudest noise in this whole mess is selective outrage dressed up as silence.
View has to be if you average out the View hosts, among the dumbest people on television. And so it's like they say the thing that people are thinking, but they say it very directly, so they expose whatever truth. But
I don't think some of them are dumb.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think Sunny Hostin.
You think it's deliberate?
I think she's ideologically driven, and they have blinders on, for sure. I don't think Sunny's dumb. But Whoopi is certainly not the brightest person. And what she just said just doesn't make any sense. It's just like so silly to say.
We're talking full-on hush mode. No statements, no panel debates, not even a shady meme in sight. Joe Rogan just said what everyone was already whispering but too scared to say out loud. If this were a tech bro or some loudmouth in a red cap, the media would have gone full WWE. Intro music, slow-motion graphics, countdown clocks to court. Dates, the whole circus. But since it's one of their own, crickets, maybe a side-eye, a quick subject change, and boom, back to analyzing beef between pop stars. It's like the justice system rang their doorbell and everyone hit ignore at once. Rogan didn't just spotlight a scandal, he exposed the media's favorite game, selective outrage. The kind that conveniently wraps a cloak around its own until it absolutely can't anymore. He went full throttle, full volume, full Rogan, calling out how these self-righteous media figures love playing moral referees. Until the foul happens in their own backyard. Suddenly it's all, respect our privacy, and context matters. Like they didn't build entire careers off dragging others with zero hesitation. In classic Rogan bulldozer mode, he smashed through the facade, calling out mainstream priorities, performative outrage, and the wild irony of a so-called legal analyst completely missing a multi-million-dollar crime spree happening in her own living room. Like, how are you out here playing? Judge and jury when your man might be out back cooking the books?
Not implicated in the lawsuit at all, but it's just, I mean, Pat, you're married. Tom, you're married. If your husband's doing something, if he's allegedly doing something like this, you guys would know if your wives were up to some nefarious stuff. But let's just not forget who she is. She's been, for years, lecturing America about morality, inequality, systemic failures, and look at her track record. How many times does she have to go on in the past 2 months and look at the camera and do a legal apology for all the stuff that she said on the show? And then she also, on Trump's win, calling the loss because of uneducated white women that Trump won.
We have to know that. This is accused.
All accused. Yeah, all accused. But he's in the RICO. This is a big...
While Joe Rogan was out here kicking down doors and flipping tables, Bill Maher strolled into the chaos like a silent assassin. Press tucks, cocktail in hand, sarcasm sharpened to a scalpel's edge. He didn't raise his voice. Didn't need a sweaty podcast mic or a blackout-style meltdown. Bill just dropped cold, clinical bars, calm, calculated, and devastating. He painted the scene with surgical precision. Sunny Hostin, the self-declared queen of legal virtue, the woman who built her entire persona on being morally bulletproof, now caught in a real-life Greek tragedy. Not because she was cuffed, but because her entire brand screams one giant asterisk. I'm smarter, classier, and more lawful than you. So when the FBI shows up at her husband's door asking about a few $100 million that magically disappeared, it's not just a scandal, it's an identity crisis with a side of full-blown PR implosion. Maher sliced through the moment. Like a surgeon too exhausted to fake being shocked. He didn't just roast Sunny, he carved up the hypocrisy, peeled back the illusion, and exposed the glass house that was always going to shatter. Because when your whole brand is built on passing, judgment, and then a scandal hits that could headline a Netflix true crime doc, you don't just lose the high ground. You get launched off the mountain. Unlike Rogan's fire and brimstone takedown, Maher kept it chill, ice cold. No fury, no shouting, just a smirk, a sigh, and the air of a man who's watched this exact brand of hypocrisy play on loop for decades. His energy? World-weary, razor-sharp, and utterly unimpressed. This isn't just another scandal, it's a masterclass in elite double standards. Let's be real. If this exact same fraud explosion had involved the spouse of a Republican senator or a conservative commentator, Sunny Hostin would have gone full DEFCON 1 on live TV. We're talking dramatic monologues, teary-eyed outrage, maybe even color-coded visual aids, followed by a 10-minute sermon on systemic corruption and America's moral collapse. But now? Silence. and a level of stiff body language that practically screams, "Do not ask me anything right now." Behind the scenes, you know there's a memo floating around ABC that reads something like, "Under no circumstances should anyone acknowledge that your husband just got hit with a multi-million-dollar fraud indictment. Seriously, don't even breathe in the direction of that courtroom." And Bill Maher, he soaked in that irony like it was a 30-year-old scotch. No shouting needed. The up-eye. Hypocrisy screamed loud enough for him. A woman who built her brand on televised moral finger-pointing is now buried in a PR catastrophe so massive it deserves its own breaking news jingle and a dedicated crisis management team. But here's where it gets even spicier. When you align Joe Rogan's brawler energy with Bill Maher's icy scalpel, you don't just get commentary. You get a cultural solar eclipse. Two heavyweights who rarely agree on anything suddenly nodding in unison. That's when you know it's real bad. This isn't just smoke. This scandal bought property in Fallout City, changed its mailing address, and signed a lease with no expiration. Welcome to the wreckage. Joe Rogan and Bill Maher might as well live on different planets. One's floating in a sensory tank debating alien consciousness, the other's pacing an HBO studio yelling about civilization's collapse. But when it came to Sonny Hostin's scandal, they were suddenly in perfect sync, locked into the same frequency of disbelief, sarcasm, and surgical takedown. And the wildest part? Sonny didn't even have to say a word. Her silence was the punchline. There she was, center stage on national television, poker-faced, barely blinking, while a legal hurricane ripped through her personal life like a Category 5 storm. Rogan and Maher filled in the silence like artists with axes to grind, blasting fire, sarcasm, and enough shade to eclipse the California sun. Rogan scorched the media for acting like spineless accomplices, too afraid to break ranks, too loyal to their clique. Maher, just as savage. He called them moral gymnasts, twisting themselves into knots just to avoid the simple, ugly truth. Together, they peeled back the velvet curtain and exposed what happens when media royalty spends so long preaching from pedestals they forget what consequences even look like. And The View. Oh, the sacred temple of televised outrage, where every celebrity blunder gets picked apart like a frog in biology class, suddenly forgot how to speak. No discussion, no roundtable. Not even a half-hearted, "We need to talk about this." Just dead air. Like the FBI knocking on your husband's door over a $450 million fraud scheme is a normal Tuesday. And Maher? He didn't let that slide, either. "I got a lot of texts this week," he said, "because Sonny attacked me the week before. Everyone was like, 'Oh, Bill, bet you're loving the karma.'" But Maher shut it down. "There's no such thing as karma. Get over that." Cue applause. He wasn't reveling in revenge. He was reveling in the absurdity, like watching a bakery catch fire while everyone insists it's just burnt toast. The View didn't just ignore the scandal. They Olympic sprinted past it with gold medal level blinders, leaving the audience wondering when accountability got voted off the panel. Meanwhile, Maher and Rogan were doing what real commentators are supposed to, ripping the mask off media hypocrisy, clowning the double standards, and reminding everyone, if you're going to preach from the mountaintop, you better make sure your house isn't built on a pile of federal indictments. Rogan laughed at the ridiculousness. Maher savored the arrogance like it was his weekend wine tasting. Together, they served up the kind of reality check that doesn't come with filters or fluff. A message loud and clear. Knowing which fork to use at a 5-star dinner doesn't earn you a pass from scrutiny. The elite don't get to skip accountability just because they can pronounce charcuterie correctly. The truth doesn't care about your resume or your seat on daytime TV, and yeah, it was entertaining. Strange, but entertaining. "I think Sonny's smart," Rogan admitted, "but ideologically captured. Some of the others? Dull-minded," he shrugged. But Sonny? She had a plan, an agenda. Like all of them. Let's be honest, the wildest part of this whole thing wasn't some backroom smear campaign or blurry Reddit conspiracy threads. No. This was observational comedy at its rawest. The facts were already screaming. The optics were louder. And Sunny Hostin's silence, that was the mic drop. Here's a woman who built her brand translating legal chaos into digestible sound bites. But the second that same chaos came knocking on her own door, in handcuffs? Silence. No commentary, no breakdown. Just an eerie stillness that said more than any legal take ever could. And Rogan? He framed it like only he could, like a cautionary tale etched into media history. This whole saga is what happens when egos expand unchecked inside a bubble built on applause and self-importance. Maher, he framed it as a full-blown tragedy dripping with irony, the kind of downfall that basically writes itself. And America? America sat back, jaws dropped, as two voices from polar opposite galaxies, Rogan and Maher, landed at the same dead center conclusion. The moral pyramid scheme is crumbling, and the ones at the top are too busy fluffing the throw pillows to notice the floor is collapsing, and that is the real legacy of this mess. Not just that a daytime host's husband allegedly finessed a white-collar heist so massive it could land him a Wall Street welcome kit. Not just that Rogan and Maher dunked so hard on the hypocrisy that the reverb's still rattling the studio. Lights. No, it's that when a real, raw scandal hit, when it knocked like the FBI at your door, the loudest voices in media became mimes. No smoking gun needed when the hypocrisy is doing backflips in plain sight. All it took was someone bold enough to yell, "Y'all seeing this?" And Rogan and Maher, first in line, buzzer already slammed. Isn't it ironic, though? It's called The View. Not some views, not one approved opinion and a polite golf clap for dissent, but in today's media culture, that's what it's become. One view. Everyone else? Please take your place in the silent corner. If hypocrisy had a loyalty program, Sunny Hostin would be VIP Platinum with rollover points and a reserved parking space. And if staying silent during personal scandal was an Olympic sport? She's on the podium, gold medal in hand, confused grin locked in place. Moral outrage used to be The View's house special, served hot, loud, and dripping with smug finger-wagging. Now, that kitchen's cold. Shut down. Lights off. The same people who once torched careers over bad tweets, awkward phrasing, or wardrobe statements suddenly have nothing to say when their own foundation cracks. No more lectures about justice, ethics, or decency. Just a silence so deafening it deserves its own protest chant. Because when your own co-host is orbiting a $450 million scandal, the "we care about accountability" mask slides off faster than a WWE folding chair to the face. You don't need a theory. Don't need a conspiracy, just watch what they don't say. That's the real headline. You can practically hear the panic behind the scenes, production assistants sweating through pastel cardigans, whispering like it's a hostage situation. Okay, ladies, today we'll passionately debate criminal justice reform, but maybe let's not mention the federal indictment involving Sunny's husband. Bit too spicy for daytime, yeah? Suddenly, the self-proclaimed defenders of truth are breaking out in hives at the mere whiff of real-life accountability, and the mental gymnastics? Gold medal worthy. Someone get the Olympic judges on speed dial. Meanwhile, outside the media echo chamber, people are just now catching on. "I saw you on The View," someone says. "Yeah," comes the reply. "No idea what I was walking into. Didn't even know who Sunny Hostin was, still kinda don't." Wasn't expecting that ambush, and that's the thing. The View has become the show people love to hate watch. Viral clips, wild takes, eye-roll-worthy rants. It's a train wreck you can't look away from. But now, the irony is peaking. Sunny Hostin, legal analyst-in-chief, vanished the second the legal stakes got real. The timing. So poetic it hurts. A scandal explodes. The law comes calling. And the one person who's supposed to understand it, all poof. Gone. Because when the chaos hits your own doorstep, apparently the analysis takes a vacation. This whole thing, it should be studied in classrooms, not just memed on TikTok. And let's not pretend this is some isolated fluke or an awkward misstep. No, what we're watching is the blueprint for elite scandal management in real time. Rule number 1, loyalty over truth. If you're part of the media aristocracy, your mess gets quietly shuffled out the side door, preferably during a commercial break, with 0 witnesses and a fresh coat of PR spin. But if you're an outsider, every stumble gets the IMAX treatment, frame by frame, analyzed like it's a CIA leak. The double standard isn't just real, it's screaming at us in Dolby Digital. Once upon a time, it was about speaking truth to power. Now, it's speaking truth unless it makes brunch awkward. Enter Rogan and Maher, media's odd couple of uncomfortable honesty. No filters, no fluff, no fake empathy wrapped in a talk show bow. Just raw facts, barbed sarcasm, and a ruthless commitment to calling out the hypocrisy the mainstream keeps trying to ghost like an old Tinder date. And then there's the audience. Let's be real for a second. It's not fans, it's a cast. A rented vibe. These aren't ride or die viewers, they're Craigslist clappers, paid to nod along and laugh on cue like the stakes aren't real. Because when you build your brand on moral high ground and your closet's full of designer skeletons, you better hope nobody checks the hinges. But guess what? The doors are wide open now. Sunny's house? It's not just rattling, it's echoing like a luxury true crime podcast. And her co-hosts? Acting like that breeze is just a quirky draft, not the gaping hole left by a $450 million fraud scandal. This isn't just a fall from grace, it's a demolition. A crater-sized blow to the entire charade of virtue-signaling punditry. Do as I say, not as I conceal. That show's been canceled mid-season. And now? The View couldn't fake being a moral compass if they had a teleprompter for it. The needles spinning like a blender set to liquidate, and the end result? A smoothie made of pure hypocrisy. And here's the roast of the century. When Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, 2 guys who probably argue over how to pronounce espresso, look at your high ground and start laughing, that's your cue to pack up the TED Talk and reconsider your life choices. Working title for a new daytime segment? Whose husband allegedly defrauded $450 million? Spoiler alert, we already know. But hey, maybe next week The View will finally dust off their moral soapbox and run a real segment on accountability. And no, not the kind with hashtags and vague platitudes. We're talking real financial ethics, ideally featuring someone whose spouse hasn't turned Medicare billing into a freestyle Ponzi scheme. Until then, hats off to Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, the podcaster and the political comedian who just reminded America what real commentary looks like. No cue cards, no smug pivots, just uncomfortable truth and the spine to say what every mainstream network's too scared to even whisper. And if anyone spots Sunny, let her know. The soapbox has officially been repossessed, probably by the same people seizing her husband's offshore accounts. Because in a world where outrage is the currency of influence, the loudest voices are usually hiding the most. At least until the FBI shows up and hits ring on your front door. If you made it this far, do your thing, like subscribe and smash that bell. Because trust me, the next video, it's only getting wilder.